Well, the time is just gone 13 minutes to 9, and it is the day of Jummah, the blessed day of Jummah, and we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to do justice to this beautiful day of Jummah, filled with its mercies, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings as well, and to get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this beautiful day of Jummah. Now, I mentioned earlier on Maulana Abdullah Khan, but no, it is not Maulana Abdullah Khan. It's our honorable, our respected Mufti Humza Farooqi from the Fatwa department at the Jamiatul Ulama Natal with the Nasiha and Jummah inspirations this morning. Mufti Saab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan as always for your time and welcome.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen for having me on a program this morning.
Yes, Mufti Saab, it is the blessed day of Jummah, Alhamdulillah, once again, and to be inspired to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We look forward to the Nasiha. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the platform is all yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Respected listeners, we find ourselves in such a time that almost every other person is in a difficulty and is in a spiritual difficulty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept for us as humankind, as mankind, spiritual prescriptions for the spiritual difficulties that a person goes through. One of the difficulties that we find many of us are in is the difficulty of understanding, the difficulty of knowing the fact that there is something called sihr and black magic. There is something called the evil eye. So many a times a person is afflicted with sihr, with nazar, with the evil eye, and we turn to solutions by going into certain spiritual detoxes, certain spiritual doctors and healers that are not prescribing the spiritual medication and prescriptions in accordance to the light of the Quran and the Sunnah. We find in the ahadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam on various occasions had advised the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to recite certain du'as so that they can stay away and be protected from these kind of spiritual illnesses, diseases, and black magic and the evil eye, etc. So today I would like to highlight the importance of manzil that we all know of or we may have heard about or it may be new to somebody. So manzil is a selection of certain verses of the Quran Kareem which are derived from the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they are very effective in regard to these kind of spiritual illnesses and diseases that a person may be going through, or the disease of black magic and the evil eye, etc. So a person who recites manzil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him protection from this particular illness and difficulty. There are many different ways wherein a person can benefit from the verses of the Quran Kareem, and the collection of the various verses, which is called manzil, is very effective for a person. So the verses of Surah Al-Fatiha, there are verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, there are verses of Surah Ali Imran, and verses of Surah Al-A'raf, Surah Bani Israel, Surah Al-Mu'minun, etc. So there are many verses of the Quran Kareem that form the manzil. So if we look for these verses and seek advice from the ulama in regard to these verses, we can even purchase copies in various bookshops that are available, and the manzil can be recited on a daily basis. So for a person's spiritual healing or spiritual detox that we talk about, etc., the manzil can be used and recited in order for a person to stay away from these spiritual illnesses that afflict us time and again, afflict our children, afflict our community members. So let us make it a practice to recite the manzil and learn the manzil by heart, read it by morning and evening, so that we can save ourselves from these kind of difficulties. On one occasion, there was a great scholar of hadith, Muhammad bin Sirin, rahimahullah, and he was a famous narrator of hadith, and of course he was a student of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So once he was traveling with a group of people, and he decided to encamp for the night at a riverbank. As were setting up the camp, the people of the area approached them and advised them that go further on. Every person who attempts to camp over here, they get robbed. So don't spend your night over here. Maybe go a kilometer ahead or few hundred meters ahead and spend your night over there. So on hearing this, the entire group packed up and departed to the camp elsewhere, with the exception of Muhammad bin Sirin rahimahullah. He decided to stay there and he did not go with the other people, with the group forward. So he stayed behind, alone and fearless, trusting in the security provided by the verses of the Quran Kareem that he had recited. So Muhammad bin Sirin rahimahullah then narrates the events that ensued and happened afterwards. He said, I had not yet fallen asleep when I actually saw the robbers. They were wielding drawn swords. They tried to come near me more than 30 times, but they were unable to draw near. So, knowing that I was safe, I slept soundly until the morning. And when it was morning, I packed up and departed, continuing my journey. As I traveled, I suddenly encountered one or two robbers who was carrying a bow and seated astride a horse with a huge bushy tail. He called out to me and asked, are you a human or a jinn? So a human from the descendants of Adam alayhi salatu wassalam was the reply given by Muhammad bin Sirin. So he's leaving this place and he meets a certain person, one of the robbers, two of the robbers, and they're questioning him. Of course, they know what happened last night. They tried to attack this person more than 30 times. They tried to take his wealth or steal from him and rob from him, but they were unable to do so. So he's asking, are you a man or are you a human? So Muhammad bin Sirin replied that I am a human. So this person then asked, and what is your secret? We tried to get to you more than 70 times, but each time we tried to get to you, we were blocked by an iron wall. So Muhammad bin Sirin rahimahullah replied to them, the secret of this is a hadith which Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrated to me from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, whoever recites 33 verses of the Quran Majid during the evening, then he will not be harmed by an unexpected predatory animal. And together with his family and wealth, he will be in complete safety and ease until the morning. When he heard this hadith from Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he was so affected that he descended from his horse, from his sorry. When this robber heard this hadith, when he heard this from Muhammad bin Sirin rahimahullah, he was so affected that he descended from his horse that he was on. He broke his bow, promising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he would never ever return to a life of robbery. And the verses of that were mentioned in the hadith are the same verses that we know as manzil. So these verses are included in the manzil. One may find more than 33 verses. However, the manzil comprises of these verses of the Quran Kareem as well. So these are lessons that we need to take and learn from. That a person will, together with getting physical protection, he will also get spiritual protection in light of the verses of the Quran Kareem. As the Shaykh al-Hadith, Walana Muhammad Zakaria, rahimahullah, and his family members were very fond of the recitation of Manzil. And his family members would always recite this. They would also blow it on themselves as a means of protection, etc. There is a certain way, a certain method that has been prescribed by certain healing practitioners, of course, which is in guideline of the Quran and Hadith, that a person may utilize the manzil by reciting manzil and then blowing, after reciting the manzil, blowing into a jug of water and consuming that water so that a person can be healed spiritually and internally, and also by blowing that same, after reciting manzil, blowing into another jug of water and utilizing that water when taking a bath. So a person can also detox himself physically in this way with the power of the manzil and verses of the Quran Kareem, and also spiritually detox himself from these kind of spiritual illnesses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding of manzil, the understanding of the importance and virtues that these verses of the Quran Kareem have, and the effect that it can have in a person's life. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, save each one of us from all kinds of calamities, difficulties, and afflictions, and keep us in His protection, and grant us the ability to take precaution uh, in light of the Quran and Hadith in terms of these spiritual diseases, difficulties, and illnesses. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.
I mean, Jazakallah khairan so much, Mufti Saab, once again for the wonderful nasiha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding and to practice upon what is being said. Once again, we do appreciate your time, Mufti Saab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you the ability to continue inspiring us, inshallah, and also Allah reward your noble efforts. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mufti Humza Farooqi with us this morning from the Fatwa department at Jamiatul Ulama Natal. And so true what Mufti Sab says, speaking about the spiritual diseases. And it's just so important for us to take note. And the solutions are there. The solutions are there for all of us. The Quran, the Hadith is there. It is clear for us. And at the same time, also looking upon our ulama to provide us with that inspiration, with the guidance, and to point us in the right direction. And with it, we are actually heading for the news in about 2 minutes' time. We know Zai Jedward is standing by, and I'm sure the major issue, the major story he will be covering this morning has been that tragedy that had taken place in Johannesburg, in Marshalltown, the building that had caught on fire, the 5-story building. And we've seen tragically 74 people have actually been burnt, and close on to 10, we are led to believe, have actually been burned beyond recognition. And the difficult task now is for the families, for those who have survived, to go out to the mortuaries to try and identify. And under these circumstances, absolutely difficult, particularly those beyond burnt beyond recognition, but also others who need to identify their family members. Can you imagine what it is actually going to take? And they said, in fact, what the authorities are saying, that those that could not be identified possibly bring a passport along. But now here is a dilemma. Does a person have a passport? Because we are led to believe that many of them have been illegally in the country and without the necessary documentation as well. So clearly, it is going to be a very, very tough call. It's going to be a very, very tough ask. And once again, our condolences and our thoughts actually go out to the people who have so tragically lost their lives. But again, it's about accountability, it's about responsibility, it's about holding those to account. And it's also about those who get away, those who have hijacked these buildings, those who have preyed on the vulnerable in the most cruel form whatsoever. When we learned about what had actually taken place, 8 people in a room, partitioned off by bed sheets, partitioned off by planks, partitioned off by cardboards, and each one paying an amount of 1,600 rand. Now, this is the level of exploitation and the preying on the vulnerable. And at the end of the day, nobody but nobody has been brought to book for this tragedy. Zai Jedward is standing by. Next up is the news.